Hi, welcome to Yemi's channel. So the other day I watched Buddhafield. Holy Hell is called. Very interesting, I'll say the least. It's very interesting. It just shows how easy a person can capture people, make them think that they are running certain um, communes, which is to do yoga and etc. But it turns out to be something more sinister. So I'm gonna play um like they said the mystery behind the Buddhafield cult, but I'm gonna play it in okay, so you can hear for yourself. There's no slides on this one, but like just listen to what's going on with this guy. He had some serious problems. He was also predatorial. He also wanted them. He also wanted them to praise him a lot. So he's another one who wanted them to praise him a lot and look at him like he was something more special than he was. So um, yeah, I'm just gonna play.
I will start us off with the Guard's role in counterterrorism. The Guard is sometimes used as a law enforcement component. The Guard mainly assisted law enforcement in stopping drug trafficking prior to 9/11.
Festival as well in the UK.
There is. Not to be confused.
Yeah, not the same organisation, because they just had really lovely seating and blankets and cushions and really good vegan and vegetarian food and just lots of really nice volunteer Buddhists. So I just want to point out I have this lovely association with that name from that, but also very clearly to anybody listening who might also have that association, this is not the same group.
No, very, very different. This group, in fact, was founded in the 1980s.
Oh yeah, I remember them.
West Hollywood.
I do not remember that.
Ooh, no. So just picture like lots of, I don't know, sexy tan people.
I mean, that's usually what I do during this podcast.
I mean, how couldn't you with me in the room? Just trying to imagine something else. With large hairsprayed hair and...
big shoulder pads.
Big shoulder pads, big
makeup,
shoulders maybe.
Big shoulders.
Yeah. In the 80s, everyone had those big club shoulders. I don't know. That's not a thing. I'm sorry. My research mainly came from a very highly acclaimed documentary that was made about this cult, which is called Holy Hell, which was produced by Will Allen, who was an ex-member of the group. He was in for 22 years.
Wow.
Parts of my research also come from Wikipedia, from Esquire, and everyone's favourite magazine, Honolulu Magazine.
Oh, that's my go-to magazine for information about Honolulu.
Right, exactly. If I want to know the happenings of Oahu, is that where it is? I go to Honolulu Magazine.
Great, good, well done.
I'm going to start by introducing you to the leader of this group. There are a lot of names. So they are a Venezuelan-born person. They were born Jaime Gomez.
Ooh, that is a good name.
Yeah. Also known as Andreas, also known as Michel Rostand. He is an actor, a ballet dancer, a hypnotherapist, a behavioural therapist, a yoga teacher, the master, and God's voice on earth.
Wow, that is a heck of a CV right there, Sam, isn't it? Crikey.
Yeah, imagine reading that when he's just coming to interview for your cafe or something. It's like, okay, but you're God's voice on earth. Are you sure you can make a latte?
You know, like being overqualified for any job.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, how are you going to work around being God's representative on earth to do a late night shift on a Thursday?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a lot to fit on a business card, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd probably be like double-sided or something, I guess.
Yeah. Hold it out.
So his group attracted... So 1980s, we've come out of the like big hippie movement, but now we've got the kids of the hippies, right?
Okay.
And so they're all spiritual seekers. They're people looking for enlightenment or something that was missing, like common in all of the cults and groups that we talk about. And they were all very beautiful people. So like, if you look at this documentary, they're all gorgeous and tall and mostly thin and mostly white, and mostly able-bodied. But very like gorgeous, and you see footage of them as like older adults as well in this documentary, and they're all still really hot. They're just those kinds of
with that classic kind of West Hollywood support that helps you stay that hot in that lifestyle. Right,
oh, I mean, perhaps we'll get to that later on.
It's amazing, isn't it? I don't know with some of the other groups that we've done, there's been quite that kind of criteria. Like sometimes the leader might recruit the people they fancy out of the members for their own secret grouping, or they might send those people out to try and honey trap other people to come and join. But I don't know if we've ever seen such a strict this is what I find attractive and that is what I will populate my group with
100%
exclusively. That's so interesting.
Yeah, and it's a good mix of different of the genders. There are a few people in it who were older, and especially as the group went on, people who joined right at the very beginning who are still there are older people now. So there's a good array of people. It leans young. Yeah. It leans young and hot. So they at the maximum they might have been 200 members, but it sort of averaged around 100.
Wow, okay.
And this group promised peace, universal unconditional love, and the knowing of God. So like, the main thing was like, I want to know God.
No God, like in like sexy time, like I want to fuck God. Is that the implication? Because that's like, isn't that like an old worldy? Yeah. Like, he knows her. She knows him. That's like an old.
She knew him.
Knew him. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe with the content warnings I gave just a few moments ago, John.
Oh perhaps. No. Okay. Yeah, I shouldn't.
Okay. So they had these weekly meetings that they called satsang. So a lot of the terms that they use come from Sanskrit or from Hindu terms. He doesn't use them in the way that Hindus or the ancients intended these practices to be used.
Has he not done even the most basic research?
No, he just kind of I reckon probably knows about as much as I do, and I've just read like a few books on yoga. That's the kind of vibe I get.
Okay, all right. He's looked in the glossary, but not too closely.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, flicked through the Bhagavad Gita, but never gone into the sutras of Patanjali. Nothing.
That would be a good T-shirt. I flicked through.
Yeah.
Available soon on our Etsy store. Yeah. We don't have an Etsy store.
No, don't waste your time and go look for it
yet.
Ooh. So as well as these weekly meetings, they would have these individual hypnotherapy sessions with, what should I call I'll call him Andreas, because he's got so. I'm not going to list the whole list of names, but let's go for Andreas because that's the like share name, right?
Okay.
So these hypnotherapy sessions would be called cleansings. So they're charged at $50 a person, and you take them every week. And he had this deep hypnotic voice to regress his members into their past trauma.
Oh wow! I hope listeners like me, you now feel deep and hypnotized.
Yeah, or it's okay if you don't.
Sam, would you tell us some more in this voice that you found, Sam? I'm enjoying it.
Perhaps that will make the next bit easier to hear. In these cleansings, no, I've got to drop it. The members would be like encouraged to talk about traumas from their past. Okay. Obviously, because a lot of these people are in their like maybe late teens, early 20s. If you go back into the past, they were children, and so a large figure in most children's lives are their parents. So all these traumas would end up going back to what their parents did to them.
Okay.
That became a really good reason to encourage these people not to speak to their parents. There we go. John just did a very knowing look.
We can, we can see that pattern, and it's tricky, isn't it? Because dealing with the things that happened in your childhood, intentionally or unintentionally, around your parents that have affected you and shaped how you are as an adult. That's an important thing to do. Obviously, not for us, Sam. You and I are completely unaffected by anything in our past and
Absolutely.
have no foibles as a result of our lives up to this point, but some people do. And that's good and useful to think about that. Not that you have any perspective of that when you're in your teens and 20s particularly, but that's such an easy way to, cut you off from anybody else's opinion at an age when you maybe don't have other permanent people in your life.
Yeah,
that's such a dangerous precedent for cut-off, isn't it? Goodness.
And in these sessions, they would be encouraged to like scream and cry and hit pillows and throw things, and that was their cleansing. And then there was another layer of that cleansing part of things, where in the group activities, in these satsang, perhaps a theme that had come out in your cleansing might be shared to the group, and it wouldn't be specific, it wouldn't be personal necessarily, but it would be like, hey, one of our brothers and sisters said this, how does everyone feel? And then that would turn into a group, like everyone crying and like rubbing each other's bodies in order to cleanse their sadness and their doubts.
Well, everyone needs a little bit of a crying up, don't they, Sam?
I mean, especially if you're in a room full of like 50, 60 really hot people.
That is when I most want to both cry and rub,
So members are expected to go to these weekly meetings, the satsang and the individual meetings. But then Andreas began to hold these optional meetings. I'm doing big air quotes, and they were the other 6 days in the week that there wasn't the satsang.
Oh wow! So all the time.
All the time, and they were optional. But then, if you weren't at one, someone would say to you the next time, like, "Hey, I didn't see you on Tuesday's meeting. Where were you? The teacher had all these amazing things to say."
You missed out on some really when he talked shit about your parents.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Just before we go any further, I'm going to talk a bit about the beliefs in a second, but cool. I would just like to show you a picture of Andreas.
Okay, great.
Ready? Okay. So wait, before I show you, imagine a short man, muscular, really shit hair, and wearing little tiny pants.
Okay, that's quite a vision.
Okay.
And now show me the real thing.
Here we go.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, that head does not look like it should fit with that body.
No, and it's hard to age. No idea how old he is. He started this group in 1985, so he could be.
Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah. It's a bit like, listeners, you'll see in the picture when we put it on Instagram. It's a bit like someone's taken maybe a Ken doll, and then has taken the normal head off it and put on like a.
Joan Rivers.
Because we all growing up had that Joan Rivers doll, didn't we? That's my bit of childhood trauma that I'd be sharing in the meetings.
Yeah, they made me play with Joan Rivers.
And that's been stuck on, or like maybe a really
Let me show you a picture of him so you got an idea of what we're talking about. So this is the guy they're talking about right now. Okay, he's the one who run. he's the one who ran this commune or so-called healing for people. But with everything, there is also a catch to everything. Everything is not always what it seems, and they're being very what's the word? Nice with their words, really, because what he does to his members is not exactly the best. Considering that they went there for healing and all that. So he was an actor, and he's now this guru that everybody trusts or whatever. And they will tell you the story more eloquently than I can, so I'll let them continue.
Good G.I. Joe after he's seen some dark shit.
Like a 1,000-yard stare, G.I. Joe. Oh no.
G.I. Joe, who's also had some plastic surgery. Wow, he has quite a vision, and those are very tiny pants.
Very tiny pants. In the documentary, like almost all the footage you see of him, I don't really remember him wearing like sets of clothes. Either he'd have like trouser shirt or a shirt and like Winnie the Pooh legs. So just
when is the Winnie the Pooh coming back as a fashion? That's what I want to know, Sam.
It's very funny when you accidentally catch someone in a Winnie the Pooh, isn't it? You're like, oh, sorry. Yeah. It's not a great look. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about their beliefs. So, like, the major tenet of it is a...
the David Tennant of it.
The David Tennant of it, is a practice called Shakti, which is the transference of energy. So he uses it in a way that other Hindus and other people who ascribe to these sort of spiritual beliefs, they don't necessarily use it this way.
Okay.
But his way is specifically about the transfer of energy from the master to the disciple. So from him to one of his followers.
It's already sounding like a euphemism, Sam.
Well, it will get more euphemistic as time goes on. And so the main practice, the one that he would do with everybody, would be, he'd get his followers into sort of a frenzied state, and then he'd push his thumb or finger really hard into their forehead or their third eye.
Oh, wow.
In order for them to pass out.
To
fully.
Oh, goodness. It's interesting. That's so like the revivalist church, right? Of speaking in tongues and getting in a crazy state, and then you get that. Like sometimes it looks like they really twat them on the head, and then they fall back.
That's a technical spiritual term. Yeah.
And lo, the Lord did twat him on the head.
I mean, it might as well be that. Yeah. So he would, then just like persistently twat them on the head until they fell down.
Jeez.
So this group, because they're at these really, really regular meetings, they all decide to live together. So they move in together, and they live in kind of houses of around 8 people. So they all had jobs outside of the group, and then obviously did service within the group. So like, hey John, you've just finished work as a West Hollywood career.
What jobs was there be in West? Like a wheat grass agitator.
Oh, or a beach man. Is there a beach
man?
I assume there is. And so then you come home and it's like, oh, it's your turn to do the cooking tonight, or whatever it is. You perform some kind of service in the group. And all of them were encouraged to maintain a good exercise practice, so they'd exercise every day.
Okay.
And everyone would kind of pitch in to pay for things. But the practice of service was all about, like, I willfully offer you service as my brother, as my sister, as my master.
Thank you for willfully offering me service, Sam.
Well, like, you willfully offered me service when you made me a cup of tea when I came here today.
I did, and I did it willingly.
Willingly. That's a Dickens character.
Hello, I'm willingly.
So the members, like, obviously people who are going to do that sort of thing, it attracts really, like, generous and loving people who love taking care of other people, and who love, people whose love language is acts of service. And as kind of as it kind of climbed up and grew, a lot of these people became Andreas's personal
Friends.
services. No, not that kind of services yet.
Okay.
But he had masseurs that he called body workers. So in this thing of like the group rubbing each other, part of that was massage. So he would have his own body workers. He had chefs. He like people had these individual roles. One of them, there's a story in the documentary that I'm basically going to tell as it is in the documentary.
Okay.
There's this guy, Julian, who member of this group, and one day one of like Andreas's inner group of people was like, he wants a fruit salad, you need to make him a fruit salad. And Julian was like, oh my god, I get to make the master a fruit salad. And
what a treat.
He would carve these beautiful sculptures out of fruit, and he'd spend hours carving each individual piece and making Andreas this beautiful like artistic fruit salad. And there are pictures of them in the documentary, and they're fully like works of art. He makes like art. I don't know, I can see a picture of the Starry Night up there, but that sort of thing out of fruit.
Oh, incredible.
And he loved it. That was his like, oh my god, I love doing this, these fancy extravagant salads. And then one day he handed it over, went out of the room, and came back in just as this member was sliding it into a blender to make him a smoothie instead of a fruit salad. And Julian just kind of he was just like, well, my service is to make him a fruit salad, so I'm going to continue, despite knowing now that they were being just made into smoothies.
Wow.
Yeah. Get ready for lots of little heartbreaking things like that, because there's lots of them.
There's also, I don't know, there's something like the inherent thing of that kind of demand of service and receiving that service already is a bit ick. But also there's something oddly, I don't know if cruel's the right word, right? But there's a level of like, that's a level of taking the piss, right? To know that person is still doing that and that you don't need, like, there's something icky about the power play of that.
It wasn't necessarily Andreas who was saying make it a smoothie, but then maybe it was. Maybe it was like, I can't be bothered to eat this fancy thing, I just want fruit. I don't know where that came from. But that was just, I thought that was just a really like beautiful thing to draw out, because how lovely to make someone a beautiful fruit salad and then
and put that passion and care into it.
Yeah. And there was good like social knowledge about cults by this point, but the members would be like, well, if this is a cult, this is a really great one, like I don't mind, I'm fine. They were just having a lovely time.
Don't they? Ours is a good one. Ours is one of the good ones.
Yeah.
We're not going to have any of the problems every other high control group in history has ever had.
Oh no, not us. We're all happy here. Also, another part of their practice was because Andreas is a ballet dancer.
Okay. Did he train? We don't know very much about what his.
So I'll get a bit more into what his career as a performer looked like in a little bit. But let's just say this for now because it's here. He also said that he'd performed with the Oakland Ballet, which is a California ballet school group. But he would make his followers practice dance. They practice ballet 3 to 5 hours a time, 5 to 6 days a week.
Wow.
And most of them hated it, but they did it because they loved him.
Yeah. This guy must have some crazy charisma, right?
Right? And he must have done in person, because it
doesn't translate in them.
It doesn't come across in footage. And I've got a video to show you later, and I'm sure you will agree. So back to the beliefs, he claims to have based some of them on the Bhagavad Gita, which is a Hindu book, which talks about dharma, karma, and yogic practices. But like I said, he just sort of like flicked through it and
then did his own version.
He's just picked out the buzzwords and gone, oh, this sounds a bit Sanskrit-y, let's use that. But the main thing that they were trying to attain was the knowing. And so Andreas had the knowing, and it was his privilege to be able to share the knowing with his followers.
I'd like to share the knowing with you, Sam.
Thank you. I'll go and tell your partner. he would have so they would go on these like retreats, and he would take a group of he'd be like, hey, you 5, it's your turn to get the knowing today. And so the rest of the group would just carry on doing their service or whatever it was they were doing, but he would take these few people and he would give them the knowing, which for them was the realization of being able to see and hear God, and it was only attainable through Andreas.
Wow.
Not all members were able to receive it. He would cherry pick individuals.
And to see and hear God.
To see and hear God.
Goodness me, okay.
Like if I'm a spiritual seeker, I would like
on
that.
offer, yeah.
And he would hold back the knowing from people. He'd be like, oh, you're not ready yet, and that would keep these people gripped.
Yeah, there's a real incentive. Okay.
And then they would also see people who, people who'd been involved for years and waiting for their chance to get the knowing, would see people come in, get the knowing, and then carry on. And you'd watch. There wasn't an order. It would be whoever he wanted to impress that day.
And that's cruel. I always think of that with the kittens, the Scientologists, where you have people who might be on staff and working, but have done like the bottom couple of courses, and then some people come in with lots of money and race through it all in a short amount of time. Yeah. Oh, it's so heartbreaking.
Exactly that. But it seems to have been like partly about money, but partly about like, does he like you? No. Then you get it. So there's a bit of footage in this documentary about what the knowing looks like, and then in some of the other articles and pieces that I read about it, the people who received the knowing talk about being able to like hear colours and see sounds, and they just got into this sort of like frenzied state where where they would just like, they felt that they saw and heard God, and they come back like, I've got the knowing and I don't know how to share it with you, and so they all look like quite glassy-eyed, and when he's talking, they're all just kind of staring at him with adoration, like creepy Victorian dolls.
Wish you could see how creepy these eyes are that Sam is doing at me across the table.
But all quite, vague, like unfocused eyes, but focused on this Joan Rivers Ken doll that they love.
I don't know who has the copyright for the Ken dolls. Is it Mattel?
Maybe.
If you're interested in that, Mattel, get in touch. We're happy to sell you that idea.
Yeah. Sure. Let's go a little bit more into some more beliefs and practices.
Okay.
Wait. Hang on, I'm going to skip forward and then I'm going to skip back in my notes. I'll remember where I've gone. So, in the early 1990s,
I remember them well.
It's when I was born. Hi. As this group... John just stuck his middle finger up at me if you're not on the Patreon.
Oh, damn, I thought I was going to get away with that.
No. Everyone should know how mean you are. They moved, as this group was kind of growing, and their individual homes weren't quite cutting it for the community that they wanted to create. They moved from West Hollywood, and they set up a compound in Austin, Texas, that they then named the Buddhafield.
Great.
So they built this beautiful compound. They had these lovely gardens. They had like peacocks and chickens, and they had a wallaby. That's just a fun fact.
I want a wallaby. Can we get an official show mascot wallaby? Is that okay? I don't know that Ash would like that. Ash is my dog. I don't know that Ash would appreciate a wallaby in the house, though.
We can get a wallaby as long as it can live with you and not with me.
Ah, damn it.
Currently, you're the one with a garden, so...
That's true. What, like the money for this, is this coming from the pooled assets of the group?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So people with family money, people with jobs, and then they're all working in the group. So in this compound, they start to grow their own food and all that sort of stuff. Okay. So it becomes a bit more self-sustaining. But then as people joined, they would inject a new flow of money in there. So it was just kind of rattling along, but they weren't flashy. Like, unlike people like Jim Jones and stuff, he didn't have this sort of like palatial thing. Yeah, he lived sort of, I mean, I'm sure better than the rest of the group, but there was no... I've not seen anything about him being like super bougie or anything.
Okay, interesting. That's quite a different vibe, isn't it? Interesting.
Yeah, the vibe I get from him is it's just all about him, basically.
It's all about me. It's all about me.
I was just joining in.
Oh, thank you.
Early 1990s, John. What else happens in Texas?
Waco.
Correct. Yeah.
Coming to a future episode near you, listeners.
Ooh. So when Waco happens, he fully freaks out. The group goes underground. They fully detach from their families.
Just quickly, Sam, for anybody who doesn't know about the Waco siege and is looking forward to it coming up in future episodes, spoilers, but this is the story of a cult group, the Branch Davidians, led by a guy called David Koresh. And there was a long and protracted siege of their compound by the FBI and the ATF that led to quite a prolonged gun battle and death and fire and destruction. And it was...
But they wouldn't mention it
because they can't.
Because they can't say he's not perfect, because he's the voice of God, right? But as he had surgery, here's another totally chill thing to do. Before he had the surgery, he would make another member of his group have that same surgery so he could see how it looked. So say I want to get my lips done, right, John? I say, John, you go get your lips done. I want to see what it looks like before I do it.
Oh, it's very drawn out. So I'm just going to get straight to the point at this point because they made some points there, but they're just droning it out for some reason. I don't know why. Anyways, I'm going to put up an article concerning this man because they're just droning it out. And it's getting ridiculous. Even I'm like, well, okay. So this is the article. A new film follows the Buddhafield group of the 80s and director Will Allen, who was in the group, talks about how easy it is to get caught up in fault. Perhaps the most disturbing part of Holy Hell, the documentary which premiered on Sundance earlier this year, is about the West Hollywood cult, is that life in the group doesn't look that bad at all. Beautiful young people dance around in scenes where with avatorial wearing leader expands their minds by seemingly doing little more than having a good time. Holy Hell director Will Allen joined the Buddhafield in the 80s. His film made up of videos he shot while in the group. He raises associations that over the 2 decades, he and other members of the group were sexually abused by the cult leader, who now goes by the name of Andreas, but was also known as Michel. Former group members claim he controlled the intimate elements of their personal lives, and there were petty tyrannies as well. Andreas had trained for the ballet and put his followers through grueling practices to stage ballet that no one but the group would ever see. But before the accusation of abuse and megalomany demands life, Buddhafield wasn't a despairing nightmare. Instead, the first half of the film makes the cult look welcoming and appealing, even holy. The community turned out to be the thing that bounded us together and kept us there for so long. Alan told me in the phone interview he joined the Buddhafield at the urging of his sister when she was 22, shortly after finishing film school and coming out as gay. I felt very confused and unsure of everything. I had no one to explain everything to me. The community provided the intimate senses of unconditional love. Nobody judged each other. We were there with open arms, loving everyone as individuals. That wasn't something I had found in college. I hadn't found that in my early family either. That love wasn't a delusional. The documentary shows Alan is still close with many of the people from the community, and they obviously still care about each other. Seemingly, Alan isn't ready to just dismiss a spiritual experience. He and others had while with the Buddhafield. The documentary shows Andreas leading many of the members to profound feelings of oneness with God. People aquaphonic, like like those like visions, the blissful sense of well-being. We weren't doing drugs. We were escaping through alcohol. Alan told me, so we were escaping through this, a more metaphysically relationships with ourselves. Eventually, the group and friendships began to feel like a trap. Alan urges that Andreas encourages his followers to keep holy company, by which he meant that they should avoid interactions with those outside the group. This was part of isolating us from society, Alan said. We only kept amongst ourselves and only bounded with ourselves. This isolation was part of what kept Alan and others of Buddhafield. Indeed, even after, like after some of the original members remained with Andreas and a new group of followers in Hawaii. So, people's spiritual journey is very personal, Alan says, and they don't want to give them up for anything. They are getting something out of it. They are not going to give it up very easily. It's easy, perhaps, to view the people who have stayed with Andreas as deluded, but such delusions are too common to simply associate to cults alone. So that's his experience. Like you could go see it's on Amazon Prime. You should go see it. I'm not going to play the thingy. Hi, Christine. I'm not going to play the what you call it. So it's a bit like a hold up.
My name is Will Allen. I started making movies when I was 13. I went to film school, and 3 weeks after graduating, my sister...
They were so alive, living from their heart and playing and jumping in ice-cold rivers and hiking through the forest at night, and oh my God, I want me some of that.
We started it. This is what we wanted. It was our little utopia.
And we were all there because of this one man.
He's very charismatic, like a child, very playful. He could dance, he was artistic. It was all those things we all wanted to be.
He was just this beautiful, silent entity. And I said, I would follow you anywhere.
My films elevated him to the role of an awakened master. He spoke as if he had gone into the cosmos and come back.
He said, what are you willing to give up to know God?
It's not like we were forced to be there. We wanted to be there.
He always told us we're an anti-cult.
I was hallucinating, colors were moving around him, and I thought, I found it.
I really felt like I had a purpose in my life.
He just became stranger and stranger and more paranoid and more possessive.
You can't say no. No is against the rules.
He wanted to be worshipped. He wanted to be God.
If you can stand naked in front of your master, you can stand naked in front of your God.
What's the scientific, rational explanation for this madness?
It was so hard to believe, but I trusted him. I never dreamed it would happen like this. I thought we would be together our entire lives. My name is Will Allen. I started
So this is the guy. Now you see a little bit of the video. Now this is the guy that was running it. As you can see, he is, as they described, I know it's loud. He is a Kendall slash old man slash whatever. I don't know. That's what I saw. That's what I see. Obviously, what they say in the documentary. Hold on a minute. Oh, I always go on the washing machine and then I forget and then I start putting on a live. It doesn't go together, does it? Right. So basically, in the documentary, they talk about how he likes to be worshipped, how he made them feel like somebody. He made them feel like people, and though he was considered right, he is considered as a cult as well in his own way. It doesn't matter however you look at it. He isolated them. He I don't even know how this sounds. Hold on, let me hear how this. Okay, you can't really hear it. Okay, or maybe you can. I don't know. But anyways, I'm gonna continue. So basically, he he really got into these young people's heads, and he was able to control them for a sense part of the time until it became apparent that he was asking favors of them. Now, one guy talks about what happened to him, and the way how it sounded like the guy said it's for his own good, it's for him, it's for Michel or Andreas as they call him, and it was so sad when he broke down and cried. I mean, fair enough, right? I'm not for the the gay whatever, but when like the guy that he sodomized was attracted to women as well, like was attracted to women, and he sort of forced him into a gay situation. He was very predatory with him as well, and therefore, when you see him literally break down in tears, being that he is a grown man as well himself, right? You really do feel for him, on in this documentary. Um, it is a good watch, mind you, because lots of us wants to be in the communes and stuff like that, or be safe or whatever. And funny enough, the Buddhafield is still going on. The Buddhafield still continues to this day. They still meet up. They still do their spiritual stuff. They still have sessions and stuff with each other, them sessions and that. Nothing's changed. It still exists. And I will show you one of their websites actually to show you that they exist. You see, I could find there. So I'm going to show you one of their. Now, as you see, this is the Buddhafield. It still exists to this day, probably under another leader now, but they still do various stuff. They still have festivals, they still have cafes, they still meet up, they still do all the stuff what this guy was pretending to be doing. They still do all the stuff what he's supposed to be doing, the retreats, the festivals, and all that. Oh, a lot of money though. So, the Buddhafield still exists to this day. Let me see, I can take it back to Andre. It still exists. And they still put it beneath a cult. Let me see if I can find.
Allowed to leave, and it supposedly simply was a spiritual group. I refer to it as a cult due to the indoctrination and abuse that will be discussed further on in this episode. The cult was a place that exuded positivity and the idea that people would get answers. Alan himself joined for that reason. The members remember the beginning of the cult as being an overwhelmingly spiritual and inviting environment about love and living well.
This was not my path. I got accepted into grad school. I was going to get a PhD in child psychology. I had my whole life planned out. And then I met some of these people. They were so alive, living from their heart, and playing and jumping in ice-cold rivers and hiking through the forest at night. And oh my God, I want me some of that.
Some of them were some of the smartest, most beautiful people I've ever met in my life.
We started it. This is what we wanted. It was our little utopia in the middle of this big giant city.
Constantly you were being fed, like your soul was being fed with love and with inspiration and awe.
I wanted everybody in the world to experience this.
I can remember feeling so fulfilled.
I said, Dad, I want to give my life to God. And he was on the next flight out there to come get me.
Many of the members were vulnerable. Some had been kicked out of home at a young age. Some experienced a violent life in the streets. Some had been forced into a religion that was fundamentalist. In the end, they all were looking for relief and for meaning in their lives. Michel told the members that he had a master who had led him to a spiritual awakening, which made them feel as though he knew more, and more importantly, knew the answers to their questions. A big part of Michel's charm was also the fact that he supposedly spoke multiple languages, was artistic, was able to dance, and was the opposite of the typical guru in that he wore Speedos and was current, compared to the stereotype of an old man in a robe. For many of the members, the Buddhafield functioned as a family. They lived and ate together and were together most of the time. This made their investment deep and committed. The Buddhafield became a group project in that members worked so they could each pay for their rent, for groceries, and most even went as far as buying and building whatever was necessary for the supposed family. Being in top physical condition was also a large part of the Buddhafield. The members consistently exercised and lived as cleanly as possible. The group sometimes had Shakti sessions where the master, Michel, supposedly transferred his energy to them. Members convulsed, fainted, and felt a new bliss, a change in themselves that made them feel as if they would never leave the cult. An ex-member refers to it as a feeling similar to being on LSD. One big concept that Michel included was called the knowing, the direct experience of God. This was taken from a Hindu text, the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna discloses the direct experience of God to his disciple Arjuna.
I was like, yes, that resonated with me. I knew it was possible.
The knowing was the realization of being able to see and hear and taste God.
You could only comprehend what this means, to finally have God being revealed to you in its purest form. Finally.
That was something that I felt like I had been looking for my entire life up to that point. I had gone to school, I had a degree, I had a great job, I was engaged, and yet when this happened, it was like all of that meant nothing.
So, who wants to ask for the knowing today?
One of the things
this guy knew what he was doing. They're young and impressionable people. He is obviously revered, revered upon, what's the word I'm looking for? He knew what he was doing. From what I saw from the documentary, this guy knew what he was doing because he wanted to be, he wanted the fame because he came from a film background. He appeared in Rosemary's Baby, but he wasn't in, well, he was only a bit of him looking. So he knew in his mind, I feel, what exactly was going on. What was he about? He had plans. I know I'm shouting now, actually. But he obviously built this thing on his own dream, because even later on, when you see how he had a masseuse, he had a massagist, he had one worker, a body work person, somebody to do clothes, he had it all tapped down. He had what most people wanted, people waiting on him hand and foot, literally. So let me see if this lady brings it up in this one as well, because the reason why I played 3 versions of this, because what I noticed is that how like, we all look at things totally different. Like what I see, this other person might not see. Um, the LSD thing, I didn't even pick up on that. I just thought that, yeah, right. When you get into a spiritual thing, to me, it's always trance-like. I'm not gonna be like, oh, whatever. I didn't see it as no LSD thing or, taking mushrooms and all that stuff. I didn't even see all that in there because, like they said, right, the guy's using raw footage of stuff, the films he was taking while he was there. But I don't remember seeing all that. I do remember them fixing him food. I do remember him fixing clothes, doing productions and all that stuff. And he rallied in it. He loved that, I would say, because I thought they were performing to other people. I didn't know it was the inside group per se, because like I couldn't really tell from where the angle of the camera was. But it's interesting that they said that they only did productions to the group, because maybe people would not have accepted his productions. Maybe they would have made fun of it or whatever. But he seemed very artistic person in what he was producing. You know what I mean? I mean, like he came from ballet, he came from artistry, he came from a lot of things like that. So he's able to use what he knew to entice these people. But anyway, I'll let the lady continue because I'll just.
That made the knowing so intriguing was that not everyone is going to be able to receive it.
I wanted what I thought he had. I wanted the knowing. I wanted this promise of enlightenment.
The ceremony of the knowing occurred over a few days. Members were told they had to give everything up, and if they hadn't, he would know. And only if they had, and they were ready, would they receive the experience. Alan was afraid he wasn't ready. However, one night Michel told Alan he had been quote-unquote fighting with God because according to him, Alan was fated to have a terrible accident that would lead to his death. Michel said that by following his guidance, he would be alright, and Alan trusted him.
Yeah, I'm gonna...
This day was going to meet God, okay? Not the president, not Brad Pitt. This was God. So you didn't want to take this lightly.
We were up in the woods, and he looks into your eyes with, this open eye meditation that's so overwhelming. And he said, "What do you want?" And I told him that I wanted to have the knowing revealed to me.
He said, it was very doubtful. was really playing with that for me.
He said, bow down, and I did, and he said, you will receive the knowing, and you will know God directly.
And he said, I think you're ready for it.
Alan was granted the knowing, though it left him feeling overwhelmed as if it were too much, too soon. Then, Alan began service, a form of free work for Michel personally, having more access to him than others. In this way, he found out more about Michel, such as the fact that aside from an actor, he had been a ballet dancer. Michel was constantly working on his physique. In fact, Alan, along with a man named Philippe, moved into the apartment next door to Michel's and turned their living room into a dance studio for him, further displaying the intense and consistent adoration they had for him. Michel began teaching ballet classes to the members, or rather, his disciples. Most of the disciples hated it. It was extremely strict, taxing, and stressful. Michel asked them to repeat their actions over and over for hours. His obsession with the physical became even more intense when Michel told Alan he had to abstain from sex entirely. Michel said that sexual orgasm was a form of death and they needed a spiritual orgasm. However, apparently no one was abstaining. It simply was a secret and a facade.
To be a person is to be a mask. And you never know who you're talking to behind the mask. The real person is somewhere inside that mask. You had to stand naked in front of God as He's made you in your body of light. The master only represents God on the earth. And if you can't stand naked in front of your master, you can't stand naked in front of your God. Know that.
Soon, Michel escalated. He asked his disciples to change their names in order to move on from their pasts and have a new chapter. This seemed like a positive change until he also asked for people to disassociate themselves from their families. Parents were concerned, shocked, and one family even hired a private investigator. He found out about the group and didn't think it was dangerous, and therefore their daughter would be fine. Another family wanted to hire someone to deprogram their daughter, but as she was an adult, she could not be forced. In 1991, a turning point occurred. A man outside the group had fallen in love with a cult member, stalked her, and as he made no progress, he decided to go to the Cult Awareness Network, an organization owned by Rick Ross. Now, the narrative turned the Buddhafield into a cult to the public, and even worse, a cult that was supposedly holding said woman hostage. The Cult Awareness Network often had parents paying for their children to be kidnapped out of cults and subsequently deprogrammed. Michel's response to this narrative was to escape. He left in the middle of the night with a few of his disciples, and the others were to stay in LA and wait for instruction. Those left behind were incredibly devastated and felt abandoned. Michel finally decided that they would settle in Austin, Texas, where a disciple bought him a house. This is also when he changed his name from Michel Rostand to Andreas, in order to avoid being found by anyone looking for him. After some time off the radar, he decided to let the rest of the disciples know, and they moved to join him. In Austin, the disciples and Michel recruited members. The running theme between all these people was beauty. Everyone was attractive. In 1993, the Waco siege occurred less than 100 miles from where the Buddhafield cult lived. This siege of a cult compound led by David Koresh ended up in 76 deaths. Michel saw this and became paranoid that he too was going to die like Koresh and that the cult was no longer safe. This paranoia led to class exercises where Michel would tell his disciples how to respond if they were ever interviewed by the FBI. There was a heavy emphasis on them saying that they did not know of Michel at all. In fact, Michel was absolutely devoted to secrecy to the point where his disciples lied to their families in extreme ways. They would send postcards from Europe when in reality they'd never left. They'd say they moved to Mexico when they were in Austin. They all tried to make the water as murky as possible as to their real situation. Michel's love love for theater and ballet continued. At one point, he even got his disciples to build him a theater. He'd come and see their work every so often, and when he didn't like it, the disciples would tear it apart and rebuild it to his liking. Once it was built, every day they had rehearsals for a play. These rehearsals lasted hours, and people even left their jobs in order to be present. Michel made these plays extravagant, with costumes and set decoration, and each play would only show once, and the only audience was the disciples, who also were partaking in the play. This extensive rehearsing and production only served to show how much Michel wished he was the limelight of the entertainment world. He wished to be treated like the actor he was not. He continued to control the life of his disciples by banning entertainment such as books, radio, and television. Michel's obsession with beauty escalated to the point where he began suggesting surgery, as well as his imposed exercising. He himself began to show that he'd been wearing makeup and had had plastic surgery himself. This showed the contradictory nature of Michel. He said that the body was only a vessel, and to focus on the spiritual, yet he demanded that everyone fit his exact standard of beauty. The standard of beauty also pregnancy. Any disciple that was pregnant was instructed to immediately terminate and get an abortion. Whenever a disciple left the cult, Michel would spread lies about them and insist that no one was to communicate with them. He manipulated the disciples by convincing them that outside of the group, only negative things would happen to them, from the contraction of AIDS to prostitution to death. He used his abilities as a hypnotherapist to manipulate each individual in a way they could not refute. In 2006, a disciple who was leaving the group sent out an email with a series of serious accusations against Michel. One of the accusations was that for years, Michel had been forcing sexual acts with male disciples. While Michel denied everything, in reality, he had been having coerced sexual relationships with disciples for years. In one-on-one sessions, each charging 50, Michel asked his disciples about sexual fantasies about men, bringing up sexual scenarios. He began asking disciples to kiss him, to take off their clothes, all under the guise of a spiritual exercise. He began coercing his male disciples into sex, and even when they hinted at not wanting to, he simply ignored them and carried on. One disciple resisted. He would begin the same way he began hypnotherapy sessions, by rerouting their resistance as resistance to someone else. He made every effort to shift their resistance onto anything or anyone but him. None of the disciples used the term rape in regards to his actions. However, it is clear that any sexual activity was not consensual, but rather coerced and manipulated. Slowly, male disciples began telling their friends about what had been happening. Alan shared that he too was one of the disciples that underwent Michel's abuse. Michel told him that he was saving his life, and this was how his teacher had taught him. As people began to open up about what they had experienced with Michel, the pieces began coming together. He had been feeding each individual a different narrative, and once people began to speak, they began to see who Michel really was. Once people confronted him, he denied all the allegations, but the disciples saw his face change, his eyes grew dark. Michel asked his disciples to attend a meeting where a video of him was shown.
What this is cannot be put in a biographical letter. It doesn't need resumes about a story, but this is free, untouched, unpolluted, not apologized.
There were some people that for the first time I saw in a gathering got up and 10 or 20 people left while that video was going on because it was so disturbing.
This is when the spell broke.
Because he lied so much. He lied so much. And they realized he was a total liar. And that's why they would go up and walk away. Because he know what he was doing. He's a sexual deviant, basically. Yes, he looked ignorant. Yes, he looked very ignorant, and I feel that when they used to talk about when that gay men will turn straight men, where I feel like he used that synonym or that same thing to do what he had to do. So basically, there's a array of beautiful men around him, and he made his move on them, you know, under lies basically, you know. But yeah, the story thickens. I might have to edit some of it, but you know, it's all good. I might edit the ones that was talking before, because they took so long to get to the point. Yeah. So Nanu, you're all right, Lordship, and Leonard, and Christine, and Jaded was about. I did see him earlier. I think Jaded's still about. I don't know, but yeah, yeah, exactly. He used this group so he can get accessible bodies of men. That's what I'm getting from this thing. So when you watch it and they tell the story of how he used he used their traumas so he can do what he had to do with them, it's like quite crazy. But I wouldn't say it's not impossible at the same time. You know, nothing's impossible on God's earth, okay? He was actually a disgusting monster in his own way. I'm surprised that they didn't take him from before. But as usual, you know how it goes with these things. They're slow, you know, unless someone really like 10 people comes out of the woodwork and talk. That's the only way they do so. And he's one of them. I mean, the people on the podcast focused on that there was a white group, which I think, okay, that had nothing to do with it. I could say that about Yahweh group, that there was a black group. But the main thing is they use all the same similar basic things, right? They pull them in, and once they're in, then they use them. He uses power, he uses whatever else. And yeah, you can also see that he is something. Yeah, it was obvious, right? His eyes, he's got full makeup on, he's got mascara on, he's got lashes on. Obviously, there's something more to that. And even when they talk about when he jumped into the river and his eyelash will move down, and they'll be trying to show him that his eyelash moved down, and he never really noticed it. He was living out his evil. Yes, he was. He was. Dude, this is the cult that you was talking about the other day or something. Yes, yes, yes. There's so many of them. There's all different types. That's why when the Yahweh guys coming at me in the comments, well, I just deleted his I just took his comment out. To be honest, okay, a cult is a cult. It doesn't matter the color. It doesn't matter. They all use the same kind of strategy. They get you drawn in, and then they use you. That's what they do. They use you for money. They use you for their sexual pleasures. They use you for whatever they need to get. They abuse the followers basically. I know I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't even say that. They take the liberties with the followers. They do, and the followers believe in them so much. Whatever they say, they don't question. In this case, the guys got used, and the funniest thing is right. Certain days he will take them places or wherever, Hawaii, wherever, and just use them and just flung on one side. So if you're just looking at the fact that Yahweh, but what somebody came in the comments at me, I think it was yesterday, and said to me, "Oh, but the FBI was going after Yahweh and all this, but Yahweh did so much." So that's what I'm saying. You see, when I put the new Wapian thing up, and I know what's gonna happen. They're gonna come and say, "Oh, it's FBI doing this." That. They they are all con men at the end of the day. They all come under the same thing, right? No matter how you look at it, they all come under the same thing. They all come under the same. They all do the same thing. Whether it's children of God, like the David Koresh, Jim Jones, they all come under the same. Yes, he does look like a gay Kendall. That's what the podcaster said at the beginning. It's only that they were taking so long to get to the brass point. I had to try and find someone who gets straight to the point. Right? It was taking so long to get to the point. Right? And because we can't see the images, what they're posting up, because they were talking about how he looks, and though I put it in between, it doesn't make no difference. Sometimes you have to see things in what it is, sometimes, right? And because there is leaders, cult leaders still operating to this day, okay, right, under whatever disguise they do, we all know there's one already active already, right about now in the Americas, right now, right? He's doing the same thing this guy's doing, okay? He's doing the exact same thing, Buddhafield, okay, right? The same thing. Buddhafield was created as a New Age commune. Now it's established as a New Age meditation commune right now. Okay? And he is doing the exact same thing. Whether people care to look at it, whether people care to accept it, right? People are feeding this man, okay, putting certain creators aside, okay, and I'm not going to call all their names out. The ones who is making him look stupid, because he looks stupid and he's doing the same thing, right? And I might just do a download on some of the things that he's using. Because the things he's using, because Auntie Miracle put up something yesterday. The certain things that he's doing, mantras, all this, right? He's using them. He's one of those touchy feely. Yes, yesterday, yes, literally bullshit, literally. Yes, he's a touchy feely one, right? Okay, fair enough, right? There's people with traumas out there and all sorts of things, like they said, right? They all came from broken backgrounds and all that. Once again, he's being in on their broken background and he used it and he thought that he could abuse them and get away with it. But he was sadly mistaken. He came across a brother and sister, or two brothers and one sister who wasn't having it, right? So he's there, and what's so strange about it? He's making all these productions and stuff like that. Okay, he's making all these fancy productions, and they're fixing it. And when he did like it, right, they tear it down. Sorry, I'm stomach. They tear it down. I'm like, wow, that is a lot of power to have over people. And I wouldn't say that is what they call it, mind control. I don't think it's mind control. It's definitely not. Nah, he's not. I don't. He's not. He's apparently Spanish. One minute they said he was Indian or something, then they said he was Spanish. So he's from a Spanish origin. These people got taken in by big time, and they were young in their 20s, early 20s, late 20s, young people. Once again, young people. Anyway, I'm gonna let him continue because it's just so crazy. A Yahweh Ben Yahweh person came after me in the comments. I had to just delete him. I just had to remove him. I just did not want none of my subs to be going backwards and forwards with him at all. It's just not on. That means that how like, you're agreeing with the moves what he made. I'm saying that how Khalid, whatever his name is, Amani was an informant. How was he an informant, right? When he had one thing to do, right? His woman was there, okay? His woman was there, okay? Sorry to stray from the subject, right? His woman was there. You're saying that the FBI came after him or whatever, right? Now, this man has a great insight into what happened in the Yahweh, and you're there defending him. So is that going to be the same thing with the new RPM, the Dr. York, when I put him up? I just hope one of the people in my comments delete your. I think people can delete other people's comments or whatever. because if I see it, I'm going to delete it because this is ridiculous. That means that you're approving of his actions, whether he's black or not. He has absolutely nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. He took liberties, he killed people, all sorts of things. This guy used people, alright? He used the men. He used them. They say it in the documentary. Okay? So I want to see, when I put up the new RPNs, who's going to come out of the woodwork? Because right now, Dr. York's doing 135 years in prison, literally. That's a lot of years, right? For all sorts, probably extras. You don't even know why they got him. There's nothing to do with informant and whatever. But anyway, I ain't gonna go on. Let me just play this thing, yeah? I ain't got time to be arguing with people on YouTube over foolishness.
Broke, and just like that, disciples began to leave in the masses. Michel then asked a disciple who was still in the dark about his behavior to see if she could ruin people who were trying to ruin him. He wanted to destroy those who were telling the truth and exposing his predatory behavior. Some of the ex-disciples threatened to sue him, but said they'd leave him alone as long as he stopped being a teacher. This is when they decided to relocate him to Hawaii to hopefully give him a new start, a new chapter that did not include him being a maniacal guru. The ex-disciples described the end of this community as a huge death, or the equivalent of a bomb going off in a village, leaving everything destroyed. This is where the story should have ended with Michel. However, in Hawaii, he simply created a new group. He was found and filmed with new followers by a cinematographer named Polly Morgan, who often had to hide behind bushes to film him. Michel had renamed himself Reiji, which translates to God King. It was clear he had simply rebranded himself and recreated a community that deeply believed in him. One of his ex-disciples wore a hidden camera and microphone, while another filmed in a hidden location. The exchange was disturbing as Michel seemed to be completely at peace.
When did you get here? My birthday. Staying over there. And what are you doing? Well, just being alive and enjoying. Me too. I mean, it hasn't been easy. You know what I mean?
And even this was a weird exchange, but this is one of his people that he abused them or whatever, right? Right? This was a very weird exchange. To be honest, I don't know. I can't talk for other people. I know some people would have knocked him out. No matter how many people is around him, right? They would not be standing like that talking to him, basically. I think, for sure. Okay? And if you watch things like Clockers, you know the boys come after their abusers, okay? So he's damn lucky this man was nice with him because, to be honest, he could have gone down a bit more worse. But anyway, you know, right? It's all different, right? We're all different, innit? You know? Oh, you're laughing, Leonard. Huh. Yeah, he just looks so weird. He looks so alien with that hair and all that stuff. And the guy comes up and just talks. But I feel in his mind he thought that he created his fear by talking to him. There's people around him that was really interesting to me. They looked up and they were looking at the exchange. So I think if certain these people they would have probably gone after the guy or whatever. Who in their right mind would let that be close enough to him? I don't know, you know. Hi True Master Dre. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I think they were undeluded, they wanted to serve the master. The master took it too far.
You have a lot of disciples, I see, yeah?
No. People come and go. This is pretty much like people pass through.
Well, are you being a good boy?
No. I don't know what that is.
Don't you think you should learn what that is?
Good and bad.
better to find out what is best.
Yeah. Have you been being your best boy?
I'm just being.
Since 2007, more people have come forth exposing his sexual and mental abuse. Aside from this documentary, I've not been able to trace Michel, or whatever name he goes by now. This is the last we know of him. I don't think my opinion is unpopular here. Genuinely, I think this man is a predator and also mentally unwell. And when I say that, I think that he has a very delusional concept of himself. Most cult leaders do, because most people
Hey, I'm going to put my 5 pence on this one. Yes, he is very deluded, very loud. I think the bubba. Can you hear the noise of the bubba at the back? She's making noise. But I'm not going to be on here because it's long anyway. Been on here an hour, I think it is. But yeah, he is very deluded. He had a God complex. Once again, God complex. It's clear to see. He was very too much of himself. And then, YouTube might pick up for us. Yeah, yeah. Well, he, he was, I don't, I know there is more people around that probably was like him. Well, this was around the era of the 80s and them times there. But yeah, the God complex is very much in this guy a lot, a lot. You can see it in him. Um, you know, um, I don't think I don't think anything came out of it. To be honest, I didn't see nothing came out of it. They didn't say that anything came out of it. No, don't sit down. Right, right, right. They just said that they were upset about it. The woman said she was upset that her two brothers went through that because both her brothers went through the same thing. So, however, he forced them to get them to do whatever he wanted them to do, which is worse, right? However, however he got them to do what he wanted them to do, he was able to do that, and it's so strange because considering that how why LGBTQ communities don't want to be seen like that, yeah. So he was the autonomy or autonomy of that, right? So we all know who is like that as well, don't we? We know. I'm not going to mention his name. Hi, Philly. I'm going to try not to mention his name because other people are doing stuff on him. He is the same as this guy. He comes under the same as Buddhafield right now, yeah? Because I'm sure some of those guys who are there right now with him probably have done some stuff and he's probably got stuff on them. Okay? It's the same thing. Once again, we come back round 360 degrees all the way back round to the same thing. He was out there taking bossy, looking like insurance. Yes, yes. And we have a black version of it right now in America, sitting in Atlanta right now. We have a black version of this. Okay? I'm sure if I do similarities with Buddhafield and that one in America, I'll probably come to the same conclusion. Okay? The only difference is he he makes up stuff every single day. He makes up, he changes, he swaps around, he picks up, he Googles, and then he goes and he does and he does it. Okay? That's the only difference. But it is the same thing. Okay? Not only that, right, he he was making them get plastic surgery to see how it looked on them. How it looked on them before he went and did plastic surgery. One lady said that how his eye looked so gaunt. His eye looked so gaunt. His face didn't look all that. It looked really bad. He had so much surgery done, right? So clearly, he didn't want to age. He wanted to be young forever. Let me see if I can find a picture of him for age. Andreas and his younger. Let me see if I can see him. They call him Gomez. Oh, it's not his name. My bad. Okay. Now, from these pictures now, you can tell that there's something up with him. Hold on, let me show you the pictures. This is only on the mind. So even if there's more pictures of him out there, right, of him as an actor, clearly you can see what he's all about. I can see what he's all about because while I was watching the thing, I can see what he's all about. Look at the pictures. Oh, there's another one older than him. Oh, see? This one particularly. This one. Now, doesn't that scream what it screams to? Okay? What's the next? See? They called him a gay porn star and everything. He was a porn star. Even this one. Right? Certain pictures really do give away what's going on with this man. Okay? He was a porn star. Now, who's a porn star now? Who's causing rampant in America right now? Eh? Hmm? Hmm. They call him the search for speeder. Let me see. What is oh, we just showed the pretty pictures. They don't even go into it. Right? Clearly, there's something up there. Something. You know what I mean? Something. See? They even show Warren there. So he comes under cult as well. Not how you see it. Man wants to be worshipped and adored. He's not from 60 no, he ain't. People were a little more honest and naive back then, I guess. I can see how he called them. Yeah. No, do they not show more? Yeah. Yep. 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 Okay. So this is not the best video that I've done, but I know it's all in spits and spots and bits and bobs or whatever. I know it's in bits and bobs or whatever. Okay. You know, with some things my videos don't turn out that great. But that lady, she explained a lot, okay? I could not have put it in no better way than that, you know? He he was who he was, and as I can't remember who said, he looked that part anyway. Or was it Testimonies that was really key about this man? You can clearly see who he was. And it's from the 80s, 90s. Was that around the AIDS era? So around there. I think it was the AIDS era and all that stuff. Okay. Um. So basically, this guy hoodwinked a whole heap of 20-year-olds and 30, well, not even 30. There was no 30-year-olds there. He went to all the places where 20-year-olds would be, and he was recruiting them. There was like artists, ballerinas, all that. He did a whole, like they said, a whole hours of learning dance. Right? Some of them wasn't even there for dance. They were there for enlightenment. And he will do this for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I think even the little film clip, what they did, I think, like, right, it must have been cut down. Because he said they were doing this for hours on end. Okay, this man had no concept. He didn't care about nobody but himself. Okay, his worship, kiss my foot, bow down before me. There's a picture of them on the beach, and you see them all bowing to him. It's like, wow, he looks like a young still. Yeah, and he also looks like, you know, that guy who used to do those pictures for those Mills and Blooms books as well. Oh, what's his name? Fabio. He reminds me of him too. Not walking like that. You want to do something. Yeah. So he can't. The only thing with Fabio, at least Fabio was better looking, right? It's like, come on. But I kind of get it. Like I said, I'm not judging people who go to cults. It's quite easy to fall into a cult situation. Yeah, they are all related. It's quite easy to fall into a cult situation, right? It's very easy. That's what I'm saying. As much as me, even I was saying when I first found out about that cult, yeah, you see it now, right? Right? Um, I mean, even now, even the situation I'm in now, I would say it's like just to be around people who's in the part of who's in the same predicament as me or whatever, like, you know, and I feel that I will be useful. Like I said, people will go to places where they are most useful because they're at home, there is not a lot going on sometimes, they're down, whatever. This happens, it's real life, it happens, yeah? So we have to be real to the shits right here, right? These youngsters got tossed out of their houses for whatever reason. Probably some of them do look like that they came out to their parents or whatever. You can tell by how they dress. The man on the video, one of them, of the documentary, he had a whole necklace around his neck talking. You can tell. So this is around, like I said, it's around the 80s, I think it's the 80s, 90s time during the AIDS pandemic probably going on. Because there was a few things going on around them times, okay, for what I remember reading on or whatever. So people finding a place of refuge. They needed a place to run to. They needed a place to retreat. They took they target the young and old. Yes, and in every case it's the same thing. The Yahweh Ben Yahwehs did the same thing. The Yahweh, should I say? The Yahwehs did the same thing. All the people in the video are young, vibrant, pretty. He looks like adults. Yeah, I think I know about that person. Um, yeah, and he ended up in those Spanish things too. What's them ones called again? You know, the Spanish dramas. He turned up in one or two of those as well. Because when they researched him and they saw him in there, in the parts, but he wasn't really saying a lot. He just doing looks. All he's doing was looks. So he basically used his acting skills on these people. That's basically what he was doing. You know, but I'm not gonna stay on here long, you know, because like my little one is. So yeah, so basically, I know the other one, the other court I'm gonna do. I know they're all gonna be speaking crap, anyways, but they're all courts: white, black, indifferent, Spanish, whatever. All the colours under the rainbow. It doesn't matter. If they're a cult, they're a cult. That's it. This comes under a cult. Right. The only difference is, right, no, there's no difference, right? Maybe Jonestown and then ones is more suicidal stuff, okay? But the main fact he abused, okay? What's his name? The Vidian guy, he abused too. Who else? Jim Jones, same thing. What's the next one? They all do the same. They all do the same thing. And I bet you, when we hear about the Newarkian craziness, what Dr. York was doing, I bet there'll be a similarities in there too. Okay? So, if you have nothing good to say in the comments, do not say nothing at all. You see when this video posts up, don't say nothing. If you have nothing good to say, and I post up the new Warpians, don't say nothing. Just hold your peace. Right? You are following the organization for whatever reason. We all follow, well, I followed Nation of Islam for whatever my reason was, okay? I just didn't stay there for long. Many people pass through certain organizations and they don't stick around for long. They don't. Okay? Yahweh Ben Yahweh was part of certain what you call it, organizations, and he went up and he made his own one. They all do it. They all do it. Okay? They all do the same MO. There's no difference. Okay? Especially in the black ones. Okay? Talk about CIA and FBI and all this foolishness. Man, I don't know, right? So it seems like when you talk about certain groups, you hit certain people's nerves. Not my fault. You're still inside of the organisation. Some people come out of the organisations and they never go back to these organisations. They actually go more forward and they go and find other places to be. Okay. When I go to do the new Warpians, because even the white people, when they're talking about them, because they do big researches on the black organisations, big, massive researches. There'll be little researches. Look how they've got money to talk. And I'm sure that, and the guy did research on him because the questions he was asking him, he was able to articulate what had happened to him inside of the place. But you're there saying, oh yeah, he was an informant. I'm fed up hearing that shit. That's what I'm saying. We don't do nothing. Right, you see next year, what did they do? They took their time and they got the guy. They got him. They formulated a whole case on the guy. Okay? You probably CIA too. Just look at yeah. My guy turned up on the comments telling me rubbish. It wasn't even a little paragraph he wrote. Big old book he's writing on the comments. Yeah, Manson was a hippie. Yeah, he's another one. Oh my gosh. I watched Charlie Says last night, right? That guy had power over the girls who killed. He was telling them the most stupidness, right? He wanted a race war to happen, right? And he kept saying certain things to them and all that. Now, when Manson saw that how he wasn't getting his record deal and certain stuff wasn't happening for him, he set them 3 girls up and that guy and sent them in for Sharon Tate. Okay, he set them in for Sharon Tate. Now Manson ran a sex cult. That's what he ran as well. So there's a lot of that going on in there, right? Exactly. Manson was set up to discredit. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I can differ on that as well. But like I said, Manson set it up for the girls to go in. The Manson girls to go in. Alright? He took away their names and IDs and whatever else and renamed them and all sorts of craziness. He was a psychopath, right? A lot. Manson, right? Manson was a whole psychopath, right? He set up the girls. Sorry, I know I'm repeating myself. I know I said it 3 times, right? He set up the women. He wanted Helter Skelter to happen. So-called Helter Skelter. When the Helter Skelter didn't happen, right? The girls, like the women, I think a couple of the women denounced him and all that stuff, right? Manson was really a doomsday cult as well, and at the same time, you are Sean Connery. We'll choose something else. Well, anyways, right? Yeah, Manson did a whole heap. Manson did a lot, right? There would have been a whole war between races already. They already was brought up in the certain places already, some of the people who went to him, right? They were rebelling against their parents and went to Manson, right? They turned into the hippie era, right? Of free love, free sex, free everything going on there. And he used that to his advantage. He knew exactly what he was doing. He got into their heads, like the people that was around him heads. He wanted to be a whole musician. He wanted to be famous. He got certain famous people came to him and stuff like that. I mean, when you look at Charlie says, I think it gives a more deeper look into what Manson's mindset, how he thought, how he think of himself. Yes, he was cool. He was that. They really looked upon him like, wow, Manson, Charlie. And be Charlie says this and Charlie says that and Charlie says this and Charlie like at one point, right, as you're watching the movie, right, if you want to tell them to shut up and just talk about something else or mention some next body. They're so into Charlie. Charlie says this and Charlie says that. It was crazy. It's just mad. I mean, I find myself looking at most of these cult stuff, and I'm like, wow, I can just see the brainwashing, how easy it is to brainwash somebody into believing that how you are something bigger than what you are, when in fact, right, you're not. You're a filmmaker's ex-wife. Yes, yes. Gosh, did I show it? Yeah, right. Sharon Tate was pregnant and everything else. Yeah, tell me about it. Sharon Tate was pregnant. They went in there and they massacred the people in the house, right? He was practicing them. The same, like I said, this always refers back to that one in America. I talk about military and this and that and that and that and that and that and that. Right? You take away certain stuff from people and you do certain things to people, they start believing it themselves. They believe in the whole concept of what you're selling. The first and others was actually physical. That's how yes. Manson, horrible man. Horrible. Absolutely horrible man. Monster. Beyond. Right? He gets them isolated. They was in the rural ends of wherever they were. They didn't see the outside world. There was no TV. They was literally living in a hippie commune. You can see that it was a proper hippie commune. Right? And right, he wanted a record deal. He wanted a record deal so badly. He wanted to be heard. When he saw that he was not going to be heard, right, he went into one and he set them, the four people, he sent them out on a mission. That's what happened, right? He sent them out on a mission and they went and they did what they were told to do. Now that could have gone a whole nother, that could have started a whole nother problem in America just by that, by what they smeared on the walls, all that stuff. The health, where I think it was the Helter Skelter that gave it away. Yeah. On top of that, Huey P. Newton, Black Panthers, I think, was active around them times as well, right? So he, so, so he would have set them up, made it look like something else. Yes, Farrakhan is another singer. They all want to be singers or artists or something. Who else? Dr. York was a singer. Dr. York was a singer. I can't even think. Yeah, Farrakhan does flipper. Yeah, he does. He's true. I can't remember what part of the Caribbean he come from. Right? So, I could sit down and I could talk about most of these quotes already. I could say I sat down and I watched. Yes, a very good violinist. In fact, he is Minister Farrakhan. He's very good violinist. Very good. I can't fault him for that. Right? But these quote leaders, I don't, I don't, I don't think they're handpicked. Some of them might be put in place for whatever reason. Some of them might not be put in place. I think, yeah. But it just shows you that every single time they all want to be musicians. Dr. York, musician. Allegio, musician, music, rap, artists, and I think with their charisma on top of that, because to get somewhere you have to have something about you to make you get to A to B to C to wherever. Why can't they ever start a cult that pleases? Oh, exactly, Leonard, and help the people. Do you know? Right, I was gonna type that to that guy in chat, and someone goes to me, you know what? Don't even bother arguing with him. Let's take him out. Let's take him out the comments, right? If they formulated something to help people, that's different, okay? Okay, the Black Panthers maybe was different because at least the Black Panthers did something for the community. So I can say, okay, the Black Panthers did something. They died for their cause, okay? But these are the ones I don't know. They're just like coming out and dressed up to the nine, gold, this, that, and the other, right? It just makes no sense to me, right? The other groups have it all tacked down and sorted, right? Even though this guy messed up Buddhafield, right? The people is making money off of Buddhafield right now. There's a whole website on Buddhafield right now. They're making money off of the situation. We on the other hand, I don't even know. It's just crazy. I'm just like, where, like, how? I mean, they talk about the revolution should not be televised. Well, even even though we're on the likes of the internet, right? The ones who's for the good of the people never get nowhere. The ones who's there to scam the people, they get a whole heap of places and then some. Now, when the fall from grace happens, now, right? Look, like as we're seeing, right? They fall hard. They don't fall soft. They fall really hard. They fall hard. It's just crazy, you know. I could I could talk about this shit for ages because I literally every time I have to do these kind of videos, there's a lot of research that I have to go into finding out about the people. You're watching them and you're like, wow, people got taken in by these people. These people are hurt, traumatized, or whatever, and they come to traumatize more people. Oh, yeah, so I gotta come off for my daughter needs me right now. But thanks for passing through, everybody. Hold on, let me just hold on, I'm coming. Okay, I'm coming. I'm coming, baby. Oh, okay, you play that first, please. Jaded Emperor, Christine. So I'm gonna go with my daughter. Leonard, Lordship, Nasty Girl somewhere. This one, this one's his name. Oh, really? Oh, Truth Master Grade. And I thought, oh, that's not good word. Oh, Big Billy Dog. Okay, I'm listening. Okay, as you can hear, I've got to go round to my daughter. I can't ignore her. Okay, so why can't we, oh yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna come off and obviously I've got to come back on and do, well, not today, but I'm gonna do another poll, obviously. But there's so many of them. I've got so much choice. It's like being in a bloody sweetie shop. Nature Boys cult need deodorant and a coat. I know, innit? So yeah, but I'm not gonna talk about Nature Boys as him. I think he's got enough limelight going on already. I don't even need to even say nothing. Right? I could just show a video of him without sound, and people know exactly who it is, who he is, and whom he is. Okay, he ain't doing nothing that nobody else ain't done. See, look, you start me off again. He ain't doing nothing that nobody else ain't done. He's going on like it's something new. All the stuff he's doing now, right? He either studied it or he's googled it and he's jumped on the bandwagon and he feels that he's doing something great. I know someone who got tongue cancer, HPV, and then oh, sorry to do that. But I am going to come off though. Thank you for passing through. I know this video was a little bit mixed up at the first at the beginning, but we got there in the end because the story was taking so long to get to the where it's supposed to be. And I like when they talk straight and get straight to the point. I don't know what those people were doing. I might even cut those ones out at the beginning because it's best to go straight to the thing. You're saying with fire. Oh, you're talking about the cancer there. Yeah. So I am gonna come off, okay? But thank you for passing through. I'm not running, but like, also need to. So with that said, I will see you. Bye.